It's a Jag, not a Jag. When people say it's a Jag, it's because they haven't got one and they wish they had one. No, this is a Jaguar XJ6 in one of the most spectacular colours I think I've ever seen. If you can forget about all the Rover colours, it's a proper full-length Jag. Although it's not a long wheelbase, it is what you call a long car, not an X-type or an S-type. This, to me, is probably what I would call the last proper Jag. Because although Jaguar were owned by Ford at the time, this still looks like a Jag. There was obviously an awful lot of pressure to make Jaguars more modern looking and stop looking like Jaguars, and that's what happened with the XF. But I like the old ones. I like what a Jaguar is supposed to look like, and that still looks like one. With its long and shapely bonnet and twin headlamps and the grille that is, well, basically a Jaguar grille, and even the way the front bumper kind of juts out unnecessarily there, it looks like a Jag. A newer Jag, well, I quite like them, but you have to have a closer look to know that's what it is. Whereas this, it doesn't really matter who you are and what distance you're seeing it from, you know exactly what it is. Even as long as you've got some eyes in your head. Same thing with these rear lamps and the way the boot just is. It is unmistakably Jaguar. And I like that because I'm British. Yes, I'm British, I'm proud of it, and you need a car that looks British. Anyway, let's put an end to the waffle and start talking about the car. This lovely bluish purple barge is an all aluminium Jaguar, and that means that it is lighter than the car that was before it. This car weighs less than its little brother. Personally, I can't find anything at all about this car not to like. The whole thing is a brilliant exercise in British engineering and style. And the only thing wrong with that is that we don't like to be British any longer, do we? No, we're trying to be European. But I'm not. I still like British things. I see no real need to talk you through any of this car's features style-wise because you can see it. So instead, I'd rather talk about what hopefully this car will be. Because I did have the 308 on an N reg it was. I loved driving it, I loved looking at it, I loved sitting inside it. But the only trouble was, it was a bit small. I mean, huge on the outside, but small on the inside. Kind of the opposite to a French car. The only way to find this out is to open the door and have a look inside. What about when we sit inside the Jaguar? Let's see, how does it feel? It feels like a reasonable size in here. It doesn't feel big like a French people carrier, but it feels like the right kind of size for a man, a gentleman, to sit inside and enjoy the view. Depending on where you live, the view out of the front isn't necessarily very interesting. But avoiding looking out the windscreen and just looking at the interior instead is very, very pleasing. Because this wood is lovely. I don't know whether this is real wood or whether it's plastic, but it looks like real wood to me. And I think in a car of this quality, that's exactly what you would expect. And quality, of course, is the important thing in a Jaguar. So let's have a little press with the buttons. First of all this material feels, oh, that's a nice feeling dash actually. That doesn't look like it's going to rattle or creak. There's a bit of flex in there, and there's I was going to say it's some pretend stitching, but it's not. That's some actual stitching there, which is interesting. Buttons, they're quite good. They're not the best I've ever felt, but they're certainly not squeaky and horrible. Air vents, you know I like air vents. these seem to be quite good quality as well. And the wheel there, I'm not as keen on. What's this? Yep, I thought so. And oh, that was a nice sound. Listen to look, that's got a nice action to it actually, and a nice sounding closing glove box. The big cat face on the steering wheel there, a nice smooth. Oh, leather I didn't actually mean to press that then. And the door card. That's another thing I always like to try out is these pulls there. It's quite highly sprung actually. It feels a lot stiffer than I was expecting. But the door card quality again, it's very, very nice, very sturdy feeling, and capped off with this lovely wooden bit there as well. British cars, of course, traditionally have saggy headlinings, and oh dear, of course, it wouldn't be a Jaguar without a saggy headlining, would it? No. That's nice. Let's do some door shut sounds. Clunky. Clunky. Yes, they are clunky doors. Fuel filler and boot. Let's press that. It didn't actually pop up. I thought it was going to pop up all by itself. Now, is this boot an adequate size for bunging in naughty men? And the answer is actually yes. It's definitely quite a long boot, but it's reasonably shallow because of the spare wheel underneath there, and that's a good thing, because any man that's going in the back of there does not deserve to be that comfortable, depending on what kind of man it is. Some it may be the nicest car they've ever been, so to be in the boot of one is a real treat. I'm now sat in the back of the Jaguar XJ, and this is where it should also be a nice place to sit, and I've got to say it is much better than the 308 because I've got some headroom for a start, and I've got somewhere to put my knees, and I believe that the driver's seat is at its position where it can't go back any further, so there's no way an extremely lanky person can get in the front and give me an uncomfortable drive by crushing my knees. It is very nice. Look at this lovely little compartment there. You could put your mobile phone in there and your packet of extra strong mints for when you forget you're not a lorry driver. And then in there you have room for cups. And I'm not sure what this is about. I mean, that's a bit of an unusual shape really. Yep, that's nice. Oh, and what do we have here? It is an ashtray. Another car that is smoker friendly, whether it be for dignitaries or children, who cares? This engine is called the AJ30 V6. It's a 3 litre and it develops 240 brake horsepower. It is a Ford engine. It does look like it's just moulded plastic, but it is aluminium. And so is the bonnet, which is nice and light, which is quite a useful thing, because on a day like this where it's slightly windy, that big bonnet's going to catch the wind and it's going to crack you on your bonds. Because it's aluminium, it won't hurt as much. I'm going to turn the ignition on now, but one thing I notice is the key, the Jaguar key. Now look at that, look at the end of that. I've got the same key on my Transit. Jaguar. Nice colour screen on there, so what happens if we press menu? That is the menu. Right, I see. Okay. Yeah, that's what you want whilst you're driving, because just in case you forget what you're driving. Now this car is, by all accounts, a poverty spec, because there are blanks here and there for heated seats, and I'm sure there's some, there don't really appear to be any other blanks. Possibly that, but I don't know whether that is one or not. But it's still got enough buttons to keep you occupied. There's the sat nav, which can basically tells you where we are right now, but you already know that. Shall we switch it on?
Yeah, go for it.
It's lovely and smooth, but it doesn't do that thing where all the dials go all over the place to show you that they're working. It just assumes that they are. What we need is to take it for a drive and see if it drives as well as it looks. So, I must take this car for a drive. But you can't drive a car like this without wearing an appropriate hat. Right, secret Daimler mode. Or is it Daimler? Daimler. There's a special way of getting that on there. Oh, what a beautiful wafting machine. This is lovely. This is the kind of car I should be driving. Well, I mean, I'm driving now. I mean, all of the time. It's a bit like driving a Rover 75, but much nicer. Lots of the interior looks and feels similar. But it's just... I think I just said nicer. I'm going to go with that again. It's nicer. It is a lot nicer. It has a proper automatic gearbox rather than one of those silly, I say silly, those double clutch system things that are very, very smooth but can wear out and cause all sorts of expensive issues. Is there enough speed to get past the caravan? To be honest, I don't really have much of an urge to be driving it irresponsibly anyway. It just doesn't feel like that kind of car. It feels like the kind of car that you just want to waft around in. Simply it. What's that? Oh, hang on, right. That's quite good actually. Nice sound. And my seatbelt's not letting go of me now. As usual, I'm just behind some traffic now. But it's not all about driving quickly. In fact, it's not about driving quickly at all, as I've just mentioned. Apparently, this car will do 35 miles per gallon? 35 miles per gallon if you drive it gently. And it didn't do just then, so let's just drop the average quite a bit. But it's with 240 brake horsepower and a car that weighs 1.7 tonne, you know, it's enough to feel quite quick, but it's never going to break your neck. Especially when you don't really feel like being a lunatic. If you're not a lunatic, buy a Subaru. Instant MPG gauge on there was going down to 12 miles per gallon whilst driving it sensibly. I don't know what it would do if you just put your foot down. Oh, sorry. 7 miles per gallon, briefly. But then the rest of this part here is, you know, infinite, isn't it? You know, there's not using any fuel up at all. So it makes up for it by doing that. So it's trying to help. Well, it's quite simply a gentleman's car. So it will go quickly when it needs to do. But it's not telling you that you have to go quickly. You not have to prove yourself. Now, when you've got a small car that's got a big fruity engine in it, unless you're driving quickly, it's completely pointless because it's not a nice car the rest of the time. That's how I think of it. Something like this is a nice car all of the time. And that's why you have to pay for that heavy fuel consumption. Although it's not really that bad, come to think of it. What's that, the thing for the fuel consumption there, isn't it? Averaging 30 miles per gallon. You got 35 on the way over here. I've just taken 5 off by just doing that. Which I would apologise for if you hadn't told me to do it. But you did tell me to do it. So what am I supposed to do? Not do it? As well as it being nice on some wafty country roads, which I haven't been on, but I can tell it will be, it's also quite nice just to sit in traffic with. Because whilst you sit in traffic, you get to see all of this dashboard. And it's a very nice, in fact, it's nicer to look at the dashboard than what's going on out in front. Thank you. That's a pleasure to use that. That reminds me of something. I can't think of what it is. It'll come to me afterwards. Yeah, nice. Massive wheels, 20-inch wheels. You'd expect it would ruin the ride, but it doesn't. Obviously it's time for some sort of conclusion here. Probably no. I like this car. I like it lots and lots. I like it more than my own car, which is unusual because nothing compares to my car. I don't mean Nigel. I mean my Rover 45. The 45 is a bit like a small version of a Jag. Speed bumps to test its, it's supposed to be good for horrible roads. But then again, is this car good for horrible roads? Because if you own one of these, the idea is you don't live on a horrible road, do you? You live on a nice road where the council looks after the area around you. That really is waffle, isn't it? What am I on about now? That's such bollocks. People who own these live up dirt tracks, don't they?